I don't know how that happened so perfectly, but I ain't complaining about it. Hey y'all, my name is Nat. I hope you're having a terrific day today, and for this video we are going to be doing a ARC reading vlog. Before we get into anything bookish, make sure to hit like and subscribe down below, as well as tell me in the comments, are you excited for these books? Are you putting them on your TBR? Let's talk about it. Alright, so as usual, thank you so much to Netgalley and the publishers for free copies of these books digitally in exchange for a honest review. Both books for this video are considered sequels for romance series, but they definitely can be read as standalones. So starting out, we have Something Wild and Wonderful by Anita Kelly. This one is a male-male romance following 𝗖cie and Ben, who are both hiking the Pacific Coast Trail and end up doing most of it together. When each of them started this trail, they were hoping to try and find themselves, but as they continue with their hiking partners, they slowly start to find something a little bit more. I am currently quite far into this one and very much enjoying it, but we're not going to get into a review just yet. On the opposite side is the third book in Mazey Eddings' A Brush with Love series, and ironically, the third of the series that I've received an ARC for. I don't know how that happened so perfectly, but I ain't complaining about it. This is the +1, and we are following Anita, the final of this friend group to have her own romance, and I believe she ends up making a fake dating pact with Jude, her childhood enemy. I think because they are both involved in the same wedding party, and Indira is trying to make her ex, who is already dating somebody new, jealous. Although fake dating isn't my favorite, I have really enjoyed Mazey Eddings' character work in her 2 previous books. She does some neurodiversity in her characters. She also does fantastic smut. Okay, now back to Something Wild and Wonderful. Guys, I meant to film an update so much sooner. I promise I did. I really meant to. But I'm 63% into this book and I adore it. We've got 𝗖cie, who Ben calls Lex, something that I absolutely adore because he's the only person who does. 𝗖cie is definitely dealing with some heavy stuff because he has recently been disowned by his parents when he came out as gay. He also recently got laid off, and his relationship with his sister is a bit strained. He's trying to find something new to throw himself into. He is trying to find some sort of new normal, create a new 𝗖cie 2.0 where he can be happy as himself, and guys, he's so pure. I just want to wrap him up in a hug. He is definitely still struggling with his sexuality. He grew up pretty sheltered because his family was incredibly conservative and religious, so there's a lot of things he just hasn't really experienced in his life. Because of that, he does come across quite naive at times, but he is so adorable. His goal with this hiking trip was just trying to become comfortable with himself. Like I said, trying to create this 𝗖cie 2.0 that he can be happy with. He's full of all of these fun nature facts. On the opposite side, we have Ben, who has kind of spent most of his life being a screw-up, but is now finally starting to find some structure, has figured out what he wants to do, but before he gets into that, he is going to hike this trail, which is something he's always wanted to do. However, he is a little worried about self-sabotage and is determined not to make any bad decisions, 𝗖cie being one of those bad decisions. He's laid back, he's funny, he definitely wears his heart on his sleeve, he charms every single person they run into. He's just hard not to like, and he hasn't told 𝗖cie that he is also gay, which leads to some very entertaining scenes because 𝗖cie does not realize this and feels awful that he is starting to have feelings for Ben because he doesn't think he's gay. But Ben is. I love the balance that this book has so far between being a romance book and also these two characters kind of having their own coming of age stories in different ways. Both characters definitely feel completely fleshed out. They each have very well-rounded personalities. They have a fantastic dynamic together. Oh my god, the chemistry is so good. They're both just so sweet, and they have found solace in trying to create this friendship with one another as their hiking family that Ben calls it. But eventually their feelings just get harder and harder to ignore, and this book is so good. With this sort of a setup where they are hiking this trail together and 𝗖cie is from Seattle while Ben is from Nashville, there's also this expiration date on the relationship, meaning there's this constant concern that's just looming over them that has my heart in a vice, even though I can definitely see where this is gonna go to give these two their happily ever after. But still, that doesn't mean we're not gonna have some drama around the third act conflict because of it. I'm not prepared. I'm also very impressed with the atmosphere thus far. It has been fantastic. Kelly has really created this entire trail for me. The scenic portraits they paint with their words are just fantastic. I am completely transported onto this trail with 𝗖cie and Ben. Also the spice in this. She good. is very good. This morning, I would not let myself stop reading until I hit the spicy scene because I knew it was coming and I was so ready for it. I mean, I don't know how Anita Kelly managed to make this feel slow burn when it's really not, because they kiss like within the first 45%. And yet I felt like I had gone through so much with these two. I just needed them to finally come together. And once they did, I was just all in. I didn't want to put it down. And guys, I'm really enjoying this. Hey guys, so I am currently at about 84% into Something Wild and Wonderful, and I was reading it this morning. I know I'm not gonna have time to film an update this afternoon, that honestly, my love for this couple so far is gonna ensure I finish the book tonight, meaning if I want to get any more filmed for this video other than a final update, I gotta do it now. So I'm doing this while I'm on my lunch break. I'm still in love with this. When these two officially become a couple, when they finally admit their feelings to each other, I was just over the moon. It is so freaking cute. On one hand, I'm not a big fan that the L-bomb has been dropped because it really hasn't been that long. But then on the other hand, it actually has been longer than I expected. There are time jumps because it has taken them quite a while to hike this Pacific Crest Trail. Also, I think I said coast in my previous updates. It's crest, Pacific Crest Trail. So in reality, they actually have been together probably a month and a half, which is a little bit better, a little less insta-lovey, but still, I still wish that maybe they hadn't quite said that yet. One way or another though, I was squealing. It is so freaking cute. All the cute moments, all the sweet lines. I'm so obsessed with both of them. Whenever Ben starts to introduce 𝗖cie to some of his friends and his family, guys, I lost it because he feels so at home with them. He feels he's kind of becoming a part of this family that Ben has. It's so good. And then there's this moment where his trauma kicks in. The way my heart stopped for a moment because I just wanted to give this man a hug. And then off of that, I was a little impressed that the third act conflict wasn't what I was expecting it to be. I figured because there is kind of this expiration date on the relationship with them hiking the Crest Trail, it actually took this turn that I wasn't anticipating. So I appreciate Kelly for doing that because it didn't make the entire plot super predictable. But with that being said, between those two things I was just talking about, I was a little frustrated with what happened in regard to the third act conflict. Even though it wasn't what I originally expected, I still wasn't the biggest fan of it because there was lack of communication. However, I will say what happened between the two of them that caused this conflict also does make perfect sense for the characters that have been created for us. So I'm frustrated by it, but at the same time, it makes perfect sense for what's happening and the characters that we know. The part I'm currently at, they are separated and there are these letters that are going back and forth, some of them delivered, some of them not. We're seeing both of them work on themselves now and growing in regards to the things they wanted to change about themselves when they were on the trail. We're definitely seeing 𝗖cie work through his trauma, work through his abandonment issues because of his parents. Some moments in these letters really have made me stop because they've been so tear-worthy. Particularly, there's this one letter where 𝗖cie is really dealing with the struggles he has with his identity, his faith, his loss of family. And there's this one line that like I genuinely had to take a step back and just breathe because otherwise I was gonna burst out into tears. I'm definitely gonna have to get a physical copy of this book because I am so absolutely obsessed with these two. They are precious and adorable and so in love. And hey y'all, so I officially finished out Something Wild and Wonderful and oh my god, I loved this book. I loved it so much. I cannot wait to get my hands on a physical copy so I can go back through and annotate it. This book was just so freaking cute. It was so sweet. It had some fantastic character development. Gorgeous, gorgeous atmospheric descriptions. I'm just like, I'm in love with this book. It was so good. Also, fantastic spice, 4 chili peppers worth. Thank you, Anita Kelly. Once we hit like the halfway point, they knew what they were doing. They dropped in just little bits of spice here and there to keep us going, and I was living for it. Thank you. I see you. There were many a times in those letter chapters where I got very close to crying. And as they progressed, it just felt like they were hitting me in the heart more and more. But I think those also made the reunion that much sweeter. The emotional healing that both of these two characters go through, fantastic. We love to see it, where the characters realize they have to work on themselves before they can be in a relationship together, and just, I adore when that happens. It means I actually have faith in this relationship lasting, and that makes me all the happier. There was also a additional little thing that got slid in there at the end that doesn't really feel like it's spoilery, so I'm gonna talk about it. I wondered at the beginning if 𝗖cie was possibly being coded as autistic, and once he has his diagnosis at the end of the book, I loved that it just made him feel like he understood himself better and was really growing to create his own identity for himself, and just, it was so happy and healthy and wholesome. And like I said, I loved 𝗖cie, and the way Ben had improved, started to think about his life in a healthier way. I definitely appreciate that this talked about the benefits of therapy, emotional growth in both characters, fantastic, and then it made the reunion all the better. I loved this book. My Copile breakdown came out to 5 stars. I highly, highly recommend this book if you read romance. Even as far as like a contemporary book, it's still pretty fantastic for like finding your identity. It was so good, y'all. I'm still in shock that I loved this so much. I think because I've just had a hard time with romance books lately. A lot of them have been letdowns. Not this. No, this was fantastic. Hey guys, so I've hit the 38% mark into the +1, and already I am so all over this. Right out of the get-go, Mazey Eddings comes out swinging when we are following Anita coming home, and she walks in her boyfriend with another woman. I was all over that drama and desperate for more. I knew this had a fake dating scenario. I knew there was sort of an enemies to lovers thing going on. I did not realize, however, that Jude is Indira's older brother's best friend, so we have a little bit of that trope as well. I wouldn't really call them enemies to lovers though. It's more like they've known each other for a very long time, and when they were kids, they just had very different personalities. She was his best friend's annoying little sister, and so they basically just constantly rib on each other or bickering left and right. It's not so much that they hate each other, but they don't get along great. However, even by this point, we've already seen some improvement around that. They're acting a little bit more mature around each other, though there is definitely still plenty of banter, which I am eating up. I think it's even more fun because this is also forced proximity, because Indira ends up staying with her brother Colin and his fiance Jeremy after her breakup with her boyfriend, only to find out that Jude is staying with them as well up until their wedding, which is in less than a month. Like I said, we have seen their relationship improving already. They do act a little bit more mature. Indira can tell that something is not quite right with Jude, and she tries to be there for him without pushing too much, because she's a therapist and she doesn't want to make him shut down, but also doesn't want to be his therapist because she needs to be a friend to him. Those scenes have led to some very sweet, intimate moments between the two of them. They actually kind of cuddled at one point. It's like not quite that, but it was very sweet and very wholesome, though everything is not completely pure, because at one point Jude ends up walking in on her after the shower, and whew, that just ratchets up sexual tension. So into that. With Indira being a therapist, there is tons of positive discussions around therapy, not only just in her job, but she also has a therapist herself, and I'm intrigued to see how Indira progresses and evolves as the story goes on. I think, and Indira definitely thinks also, that Jude could certainly benefit from some therapy. We find out that he is actually a surgeon. He took up a job to work for this nonprofit, basically going on different tours in areas that need doctors, in exchange for them paying for his medical school. However, now it definitely seems like he is dealing with some PTSD, depression, anxiety. He really is struggling with guilt that he's had due to patients dying in his care. His perspective can be kind of difficult to read because, especially in the beginning, it feels like he's always right on the edge of a panic attack, but the more we see him interact with Indira, the better that gets, and I think that just lends into the fact that these two may actually be perfect for each other, and I have confidence in this relationship already. I would like a little bit more from Colin, Indira's older brother, since, you know, he's an important part of both of their lives. I think what we've seen of him is cute and fun, but I just want a little bit more since he is kind of an integral player in this story. I do believe all three of these characters, though, were actually friends, that they actually grew up together. Eddings has been smart enough to include little one-liners, little scenes here and there to reinforce the fact that these three have had a relationship for a very long time due to the wedding that is coming up, and apparently Indira's ex is actually gonna follow this. So Indira's brother Colin is marrying Jeremy, and Jeremy's cousin was Chris, who is Indira's ex. They are both going to be in the wedding party, which makes things very awkward, seeing as how Chris and his new girlfriend are constantly attached at the mouth in front of everyone, which then leads Jude into offering to be Indira's fake date. I think part of the reason I haven't minded the fake dating element too much yet is because we really haven't seen that much of it. Granted, I'm not even 40% into the book, but that's one romance trope I don't tend to love. We'll see how that progresses, but at this point, I'm not hating it. Hey y'all, please excuse the glare. My contacts have been bugging me way too much. My allergies are really bad. I have to wear my glasses today. But hey, I have hit the 74% mark into the +1, and honestly, this may be on track to be my favorite of the series. I adore them so much. I do think choosing to market this book as like enemies to lovers with fake dating was kind of not great. I think it should have had more focus on the brother's best friend element, because honestly, enemies to lovers dissipates pretty quickly. Fake dating dissipates pretty quickly afterwards. They're already like officially calling each other boyfriend and girlfriend. I've actually hit a point now where they've dropped a L-bomb. I'm usually not a big fan of that, but I do think the fact that they've known each other for so long in their lives helps with it. But also, I just have so much faith in this relationship because of everything we've seen from the characters. Like, holy shit, y'all. When things finally collide and we get some breaking of that sexual tension, it was so good. And then it only gets even more entertaining when they remember they're only supposed to be fake dating each other. I don't even really like fake dating all that much. I was already starting to get a little frustrated with how often that excuse is being used to talk away their feelings. But after they make out for the first time and then immediately are like, this is not happening, this is fake. But when we get into the real good smut, shit is spicy. And then there's like this little breakaway temporarily to do some great discussions around Jude's mental health, only to get back to the spicy bit. Like that whole chapter, fantastic. I really just love that Indira is trying so desperately to be there for Jude, and she really is. She doesn't want him to see her as a therapist. She really wants him to just see her as somebody he has faith in and has enough trust in to talk about all of the things he's been struggling with. And it's so sweet whenever they finally reach that point. It's so tender and emotionally intimate. It's so wholesome. It's so pure. She also stands up for him when he's afraid to do so himself because he thinks it'll make him look like he's not normal. The specific example I have with that actually almost made me cry. It was such a small thing, but it just meant so much in the moment. And I think with all of that, it just makes their romance feel so authentic, and that's why I didn't mind that they already said I love you. I talked about previously how I was enjoying Colin the brother, but I did want a little bit more from him. We do get that. Not in the most positive light, because there's this ongoing issue in regards to Colin and Indira's father. Indira absolutely despises her father because of his abandoning their family, and then Colin is desperately trying to cling on to some amount of a relationship with him, so he invited his dad to the wedding. The way it's being handled just grinds my gears personally, but at the same time, I think it's also pretty predictable for where that's gonna go and how it's gonna be resolved. Most likely at the wedding itself. I don't remember if I mentioned previously that I've been buddy reading this with Michelle. I feel like every time I pick it up, I have 3 more things I need to tell her about. Okay, so Sam is sitting right here and he is staring at my microphone cord. We're gonna hope he does not attack it, otherwise this update's gonna get a lot more chaotic. Hey y'all, so I've officially finished out the +1 and I'm bummed. Unfortunately, at one point I did think this book was going to be 5 stars. I thought it was going to be my favorite of the series, but it didn't really stick the landing in regards to like the end of a book or the end of a series. I was enamored with Jude and Indira's relationship majority of the way through. For the last 30%, it felt like they had been together for quite a lot of time already. Like they had just already fallen into the domestic roles they had in their relationship. It was just as though so much time had passed in their relationship. In reality, it maybe even like a month. And while I said previously I didn't mind the fact that they said I love you, seeing as how they'd known each other for so long, looking back on that element and then the way the relationship felt in the very end of the book, it did seem like things went really fast. I also was upset by the fact that it seemed like Jude lost a lot of his personality in the Like last 30%, anytime we were seeing through his eyes, it didn't seem like we were actually getting any of his personality. It was purely all just focused on his PTSD and how he was trying to cope with it. I do think that was a fantastic topic for Eddings to include within the story, and I thought it gave Jude some depth, but by that point, it felt like all of his characterization was focused on it. So he just felt really one note, which was surprising seeing as how I really enjoyed him in the first part of the book. The conflict between Colin and Indira and their father kind of went exactly how I thought it was going to go. And then, like I said at the beginning, the ending was just fine. I will praise the fact that this doesn't have a third act breakup. In a single chapter, the two of them do kind of, not quite get in an argument, but Jude is really struggling with his PTSD and the fact that he is having to be stationed yet again. He doesn't think there's any other thing he can do apart from just sucking it up and going. With Jude's whole PTSD and trying to get out of the next deployment due to his PTSD, that whole situation just felt like Eddings sort of forgot about it. And because of that, it just felt like it all wrapped up really quickly. And then like the last 3 chapters between that and Dear and Jude's relationship and what happens next, every single chapter felt so off in terms of pacing. There were multiple time jumps. Basically all of those different plot lines just felt super rushed, and you weren't really given the time to enjoy them because of how those chapters were written. Especially in regard to the epilogue, I also mentioned that this didn't feel like a satisfying ending to the series because we get like that long with the 3 different couples we've seen throughout the series. It just didn't feel like a proper goodbye to them. I wanted more from that. I'm so bummed that I loved this book so much in the first half. I wasn't a big fan of the ending, so my Caw Pile breakdown came out to about 3.75 stars. Since I did enjoy the beginning of this book so much, I am going to round it up to 4 stars. It just was a little bit of a letdown. But I finished a series at least. Alright y'all, so that is it for today. Thank you so much for coming to my channel. I really appreciate it. Make sure to hit like and subscribe down below. I have all my socials as well as a few ways you can support me linked in the description. I come out with videos on Monday and Friday, but until then, I hope you continue to have a terrific day. Love you, bye!